A royal wedding. In November 2010, shortly before Stephen and I had left England, the engagement of Prince William and Kate Middleton had been announced, but it was not until recently that we had become aware of it once more. When Stephen's mum mentioned the increased activity and news coverage the impending wedding was attracting in Britain. I am, and I have always been, in favour of the British monarchy. And since living in a republic, Stephen too had begun to favour a constitutional monarch over an elected head of state. So although we had not intended to watch the wedding, we accepted the invitation from John to follow the event at his house through the BBC coverage on TV. Perhaps when people emigrate, the bond between them and their former country can only ever be expected to be weakened, never broken. Watching the wedding ceremony, it was impossible to suppress the pride I felt and happiness that showed in my face when cheering crowds were shown and words were spoken extolling the organisation, pomp and the persons of the Queen and her grandson. I revelled in the Britishness of the event and somehow believed that I reflected these virtues. There was a ghost at that wedding, as there were a couple at mine and Stephen's, and the spectre of Diana, Princess of Wales, and all the stories that have been printed, hinted at, or imagined must have surfaced not only on the day, but throughout the planning of the marriage. Yet the relationship between William and Camilla, Duchess of Cornwall, appeared comfortable, and if that was a manifestation of the understanding the young prince had of his father's loss and the lifeline he had been given, then he had a place in my affection as a good person, which, despite my monarchical leanings, is a far greater accolade than being born of royal blood. The wedding, as such occasions tend to be, was a time for introspection. On soil that was not native, and amongst people with whom I could not express myself easily, I often felt isolated and uncertain about how I fitted into Portugal, and especially village life. Yet the man I married bore my moods, and although not always, I sometimes knew the loss I would feel if he were no longer there. So, with a flag of the young English prince and his wife flying in a Portuguese breeze, a glass or two was raised to the royal couple's happiness, and to ours. The Pats. Patrick and Patricia had been with us for about a month when the smaller of the two ducklings found his first slug on the wall in the garden one morning, and I called Stephen to look, as the sticky creature would not go down Pat's throat quite as easily as the bugs he had found. For other reasons, Patsy also brought smiles to our faces, and her stubble disappeared and was replaced by beautiful feathers. And as the bond grew between the two feathered family members, I thanked the circumstances that had led us to bring home two ducks and not just the one.